Welcome back. In the previous step, we implemented the basic routing. However, when we go to login page and we enter username and password in 28 minutes dummy and click login, I'm still showing just the login successful. I'm not really redirecting to the welcome page. In this step, let's see how you can redirect to the welcome page. This is a very short step actually. So let's quickly do that. So what happens when I click the login button? Let's see what happens right now. Login component, login clicked is here. So when in 28 minutes and dummy, what we are saying is console.log successful. I don't really need this. I'll remove this. And we are saying set state show success message as true and has login failed as false. Actually, we don't really need to do all that. All that we need to do is to redirect to the welcome page. What is the URL to the welcome page? /welcome, right? The way you can actually redirect to a welcome page in React using the router is by saying this dot props dot history dot push /welcome. As simple as that. Once we redirect to the different component, we don't really need to update the state of the current component, so you can even comment this stuff out. So let's see what would happen in 28 minutes dummy and say login. It's actually asking if you want to say the user ID and password, but it's redirecting to the welcome page. Now, you might be wondering, we have used this.props.history.push, but where is this API coming from and what else can I do with this, right? So if I do a search for React Router History API, you'd go in here. So React Router History API. So History API is one of the dependencies for React Router. So we earlier added a dependency for React Router DOM. One of the dependencies for it is React Router. One of the dependencies for React Router is the History API. So if you go in here, you'd have a little bit of documentation on what you can do. You can get the current location, you can get the path name and a little bit of other stuff, and you can see all the other methods which are present in here as well. We are using the push method. There are methods called replace. You can actually go forward, go back, and all that stuff. But to get the actual documentation of the history API, the best place to go is the history package. So if you click this link over here, this would take you to the actual history package documentation. And you can see that this is a JavaScript library which is meant to be used to manage session history. The idea is irrespective of the environment, irrespective of the kind of place where you are using this API, you'd want to be able to manage the navigation. History API works not only in the browser but also for native applications. All this setup is done for us. What we are really interested in is the methods which are present in the history object. So let's go a little bit down, and if you go to the navigation, you can see that there are different methods which are present. History.push, replace, go back, go forward, and all that stuff. So history.push is to go to the /home. So once we do this, we would go to the home page. The other thing you can do with the push method is also add some state. So I would want to go to this with this thing as this state. So this object as this state. You can also do a history.go -1 to go back, or the same thing you can achieve by using go back. I would recommend you to spend some time with this documentation to understand the history API a little bit more. I'll see you in the next step. Until then, bye-bye. we would want to render it. What do we want to do? Certain situations we want to show login component, certain situations we would want to show the welcome component. So over here we would need to add the router. So I would want to use the router and define the routes. So if the path is, let's say, something, then the component to use is something. If the path is something else, the component to use is something else as well. What we'll do for now is we'll comment this JSX comment. So it's a little tricky. Let's comment it out, and over here let's use login component as the first one, welcome component as the second one, and for this we'll give the URL /login, and for this we'll give the URL /welcome. Let's see if this loads up fine in the browser. Oops, it's actually not loading up at all. When I refresh it, it's actually crashing. The reason is because we stopped it, we added the dependency, and at that particular point in time, we stopped the application. So let's do an npm start again to kick it off again. Okay, it's starting it up again. I expect to see an error when it launches up. I just want to demo it. Okay, it errors out. It says a router may have only one child element. So one of the things is inside the router you can only have one child element, just like in JSX. So over here we have two routes. So what I'll do is I'll include it within a fragment. So all that I need to do is empty nodes added in here, and I'll push the routes a little down. Let's see what would happen now. Cool. Localhost 3000 doesn't show anything. Why? Because we have not defined the default route yet. So what I'll do is I'll see what happens when I type in /login. It shows the login page. What happens when I show the /welcome? It shows the welcome page. What happens when I say /welcome? Let's see what would happen if I say /welcome/ something else. It continues to show the welcome page. So any route starting with /login would show the login component. Any route starting with /welcome would show the welcome component. Let's now add the fact that even the default /route, I would want it to go to the login component as well. What's happening in here? When I type in localhost 3000 welcome this, it's also showing the login component. Because /welcome /fsd_jfl, it matches this route and it matches this route. So it's actually showing both. So we can prevent the login component to be shown by saying exact. So only when it's /exact, then do that. So now only the welcome component is shown when I say localhost 3000. Login component is shown when I say localhost 3000 /login. Login component. In this step, what we did is we created the welcome component quickly, and we also quickly added in the routing stuff. So we are now able to type in a URL in the browser and go to a specific thing. So we were able to say /login and go to login, /welcome and go to welcome component. There are still a few things here and there that we need to work on, like security, look and feel and stuff like that. But those are things which would work in the next steps. Until then, bye-bye. Welcome back. In this step, I'll show you a tip about how you can simplify this kind of component creation for simple ifs. All that we have is a simple if, and we had to create a functional component to show this. And that's a little tricky, right? That's a little complex. So how do we avoid it? Let's see that in this specific step. Let's go to the JavaScript console and type in true and a value. So true and I'm giving a, let's say, a string. True and a test string. What would happen? You can see that it is returning test string back. Let's say false and test string. So I'm actually in the console of your browser. You can get there by doing a right click inspect and going to the console, and I'm trying some JavaScript in here. So if I do a false and test string, what it's returning is false. It's not actually returning the test string back. So let's say I'll create a simple variable. Let show something is equal to true. So if I say show something and test string, what would it return? Because show something is true, it would return test string back. Now I'll change the value of show something actually to false. Let's make it false. And let's execute the same thing. Show something and test string. Aha, it is returning false. The thing which we are realizing in here is AND operator. If the left hand side is a Boolean operator, it will return this value as is if the condition is true. If show something is true, it would return the string as is. Otherwise, it returns false back. And that's a great opportunity with JSX. So over here, instead of doing show invalid credentials is equal to this and all that stuff, all that we can do is we can insert a JavaScript expression and say this dot state dot has login failed, and you can put in whatever you would want to return back. So you can say this expression. So any JSX is like an expression. So everything in a JSX compiles to JavaScript code, and it's like a JavaScript expression. So you can say this dot has login failed and invalid credentials, and now I can comment this code out. So I'm going to do a JSX command, so / and include it within curly braces. Cool, and let's see if this works as it is. Login, invalid credentials. If I do dummy and give the right values, login successful. Isn't that cool? So this, while it looks complex, right? One of the reasons why we are introducing this in a separate step on its own is because this is little tricky to understand, right? So this code looks very, very complex, but what it does is very simple. If this condition is true, then show this. As simple as that. So let's do the same thing now for the success message as well. Show success message. Let's comment this stuff out, /* and include within curly braces, and it's not invalid credentials, but it should be login successful. So now I don't really need these two methods. So control / or command / to comment this stuff out, and now you'd see login successful, login invalid credentials. So what we are doing is now we have simplified all the logic for validation inside our code. In this step, we learned an important thing. If you wanted to show a specific div on a specific condition, then you can actually use this AND operator. I'll recommend you to play around with the AND operator a lot more. I'll see you in the next step. And until then, bye-bye.